The Dark Tide. Chapter 3 of the Last Honor series. Kanazawa, 1658. 1 year after Muramasa forged the blade, the port city of Kanazawa burned beneath a blood-red moon, Satake. Hideaki stood at the harbor's edge, watching dark shapes emerge from merchant ships newly arrived from China. The crews emerged changed, their skin grey, their movements wrong, their eyes holding an ancient hunger. It came by sea. His companion, a Shinto priest named Kenji, whispered, "Just as the prophecy warned, when the tide brings death to our shores, 3 must stand against the dark." Hideaki gripped the Kanemitsu-Muramasa tighter. Where are the other 2 blades? The storm bow of wind travels from Mount Fuji. The water mirror blade comes from Kyoto. Kenji's eyes reflected the flames consuming the harbor district. But I fear they will arrive too late. This is only the first wave. The infected crews lurched toward the city, their numbers growing as they claimed more victims. But these were different from the yokai Hideaki usually hunted. These moved with purpose, as if guided by an invisible hand. There, Kenji pointed to a figure standing on the largest ship's deck, a robed man, too still to be one of the infected, holding what appeared to be an ancient bronze compass. The Tide Master. He guides them. The dark powers of the mainland have finally reached Japan. Present day, port of Osaka. Tanaka stared at the ancient scroll Satake Yoshiro had spread across the hood of their car. The ink illustrations showed the same scene he now watched at Osaka's port. Ships arriving under darkness, their crews emerging changed. "History repeats," the old man said, adjusting his grip on his concealed blade. "The first dark tide came from China during the Edo period. Now shipping containers carry the same curse." Through binoculars, Tanaka watched dock workers emerge from between the containers, their movements becoming increasingly erratic. At the harbor's control tower, a figure in modern business attire held what looked like an antique compass. "The Tide Master's heir," Miyuki whispered. "The infection isn't random. They're targeting the ports first because every major Yakuza family has interests in the shipping industry." Tanaka finished. "We're not just their victims. We're their distribution network." His phone buzzed. Messages from all across Japan's coast. Nagasaki, Yokohama, Kobe, all reporting the same pattern. The infection erupting simultaneously at every major port where the Yakuza held sway. The Kanemitsu-Muramasa hummed at his side, its blue flame reflecting off the shipping containers. His training with Satake had taught him to feel the blade's warnings. Tonight, it practically screamed. "Satake-san." He turned to the old man. "Your ancestor faced this threat before. How did he stop it?" "He didn't, not alone." Yoshiro's eyes fixed on the harbor control tower. "The chronicles say the first dark tide was turned back only when the 3 sacred weapons came together. The flame sword, the storm bow, the water mirror, each representing an element of purification. And now," Miyuki checked her weapon, the tanto she'd carried since their first night of survival. "Now we must do what our ancestors did. Find the other weapons, unite them." Yoshiro pulled a weathered map from his suit jacket. The storm bow was last seen in the mountains outside Nagano. The water mirror was kept by a temple in Kyoto until it vanished during the American occupation. Tanaka watched more infected dock workers emerge from the shadows. From the harbor control tower, the figure with the compass began to move, orchestrating their movements with subtle gestures. "We'll need to split up," he said. "Miyuki, take our best fighters to Nagano. Find the bow. Yoshiro-san, Your knowledge of history makes you best suited to track down the mirror in Kyoto. He gripped the Muramasa tighter. I'll deal with our friend in the tower. Tanaka-san. Yoshiro grabbed his arm. There's more. The scrolls speak of why the first dark tide came to Japan. They weren't just spreading infection. They were seeking something. An ancient burial site beneath the old capital. What's buried there? Something worse than all these infected combined. Something that, if freed, would make this dark tide look like a ripple in a pond. The old man's eyes were grave. And after centuries of searching, I fear they've finally found it. In the distance, more ships appeared on the horizon, their running lights dark, their holds full of horrors yet to be unleashed. The dark tide was rising again, and this time it threatened to drown them all. Tanaka drew the Muramasa, its blue flame casting shadows across the port. Then we have no choice. We find the weapons, we stop the tide, and we make sure whatever's buried stays that way. Above them, the blood-red moon